Former pro hoop star Patrick Beverley just dropped a massive 14-minute truth bomb on his channel, breaking his silence about that infamous night he got cuffed over a major felony involving his own little sister. The internet has been having an absolute meltdown over this drama, which prompted the defensive Bulldog to post a raw upload titled "The State vs. Pat Bev." Inside this drop, he spills all the tea on getting locked up, sitting behind bars, and his exact version of the chaos that unfolded in the dark. Today, we are unpacking this entire roller coaster, from the initial 911 call to the heavy legal threats, the grand jury's final call, and where his basketball future heads next. But before we hit the rewind button on that wild night, do me a quick favor and smash that subscribe button to keep up with all the craziest sports updates. All right, let us jump into November 14th, 2025. Law enforcement out in Fort Bend County, Texas, got dispatched out at 3:50 a.m. for what looked like a severe domestic disturbance at a local home. Turns out, the target of their investigation was none other than 37-year-old basketball veteran Patrick Beverley. Officers slapped the cuffs on the hoop star right then and there, hitting him with a heavy felony assault charge in what local authorities labeled a domestic violence situation. Now, let us look at the official paperwork. The sworn statements indicate the whole mess kicked off after the point guard's mom rang him up in a panic because his teenage sibling had sneaked out to see her boyfriend. Keep in mind, this girl is barely 15 years old, meaning there is an age gap of over 20 years between the siblings. If you listen to Pat's side of the story from his upload, he claims his phone rang right around 3 a.m. with his mother demanding he rush over to help. He spells out the sequence of events step by step, reiterating that early morning wake-up call. Quote, "This definitely was not the first rodeo with this kind of drama," the veteran defender admitted about their family history. He claimed people had previously dialed 911 on his mom, bringing Child Protective Services to their doorstep with threats of removing the teen from the home. Clearly, the household was already on thin ice over the teenager's rebellious streak and the lingering presence of social workers keeping an eye on things. Digging into the official court documents secured by Fox 26, the blowout ignited the moment the girl crept back inside after her late-night rendezvous. Once she walked through the door, her mom commanded her to invite the boy right back while simultaneously summoning her famous son to the property. Essentially, the mother orchestrated a massive late-night confrontation between the grown NBA player and the young kid. From this point forward, the narrative's completely split. If you are hooked on this breakdown so far, hit that like button so the algorithm knows you want more deep dives like this. Moving over to the teenager's formal complaints to the cops, things escalated into straight-up violence. Based on her sworn testimony, the aggressive guard lunged at her, wrapping both hands around her throat before hoisting her entirely off the floor. She claims he clamped down hard for an agonizing 20 to 30 seconds, completely cutting off her air supply. On top of the choking allegations, the report states the former pro clocked her squarely in the left eye. But the brutality allegedly did not stop there. She accused her older brother of chucking her into a wall, delivering another blow, and dropping a chilling threat that he would be the one to end her life. Those are incredibly severe accusations pulled straight from the official squad car transcripts. Responding officers swarmed the block after the boyfriend frantically dialed for backup. Upon arrival, detectives spotted visible trauma around the victim's throat, alongside petechiae forming inside her eyes. For those who do not know, petechiae are tiny crimson dots resulting from ruptured capillaries, often serving as a massive red flag for manual strangulation. That physical evidence was logged immediately by the patrolman on site. However, the accused baller is spinning a wildly conflicting narrative. The 37-year-old defensive specialist insisted on camera that he simply walked into the residence, grabbed his sibling's arm to drag her into a separate area, and merely snagged the fabric of her sweatshirt when she attempted to chase down the boy who was escaping the property. That is his absolute defense. He swears he only tugged her arm and wrangled her clothes. According to him, that was the absolute peak of their physical struggle. Referencing updates from inside sources, the veteran outright denied ever throwing hands or restricting her breathing. He even claims the matriarch of the family instantly ran interference for him, telling cops the assault never went down. But despite the mom playing defense, the cuffs came out fast. The star was tossed straight into the back of a cruiser, and suddenly, As he tells it, the alleged victim panicked and tried to walk back her entire statement. He claims the teen sprinted over to the patrol vehicle, screaming that it was all a lie and demanding they let him go. Quote, "I was just trying to keep the peace and let the officers work, completely clueless that I was headed straight for a concrete cell," end quote. Unfortunately for him, the deputies had already locked in her original frantic confession and snapped photos of the glaring red bruising on her skin. Even though the Hooper insists she tried to erase the whole thing, the wheels of justice were already spinning. Down in Texas, once a domestic abuse, complaint gets officially logged, detectives press forward whether the victim changes their tune or not. The paperwork hit the desk hard. Court files confirm he was slapped with family violence assault via impeding breath, landing him squarely in third-degree felony territory. The judge smacked him with a $40,000 bond. Make no mistake, this is no slap on the wrist. Texas penal codes classify this level of aggression as incredibly severe, carrying a potential state prison bid of 2 to 10 years, plus a massive fine topping out at $10,000. The man was staring down the barrel of a decade behind bars. Fast forward to the recent upload where he burns serious clock detailing the legal nightmare that followed the booking. Just 7 days after prosecutors ultimately tossed the entire case in the trash, the controversial court general fired up his camera to release the State vs. Pat Bev documentary. Throughout the footage, he paints a vivid picture of getting stripped of his freedom right inside his picture an NBA veteran trading his luxury locker room for a cold concrete cell, knocking out push-ups just to kill time next to a stainless steel toilet, while getting recognized by random inmates in the general population. Patrick Beverley has been crystal clear that this entire nightmare was completely uncharted territory for him, considering he had never once crossed paths with the law before this incident. The defensive specialist literally had a spotless record, telling his fans straight up in a recent video, "I am totally in the dark about how the penal system works. I know nothing about being behind bars. Handcuffs are completely foreign to me. That is just not my world." He went on to explain, "My life revolves around Gatorade bottles, sweat towels, and shooting hoops. I have absolutely zero experience dealing with the whole law enforcement circus." The former LA Clippers standout clarified that he somehow managed to avoid spending the entire night locked up, though guards initially hit him with the terrifying news that he would be stuck there until a court hearing the very next day. Thankfully, the timeline shifted and he managed to walk free that exact same Friday after posting a $40,000 bail. Even though he paid his way out fast, the psychological toll was massive. That ordeal easily ranks as the single most deeply uncomfortable situation I have faced in my entire life, he admitted. But stepping outside was just the beginning, because the strict legal conditions attached to his freedom sparked a massive logistical nightmare for his loved ones. Beverley revealed that a judge slapped him with a strict order to stay at least 1,000 feet away from his sister, forcing an immediate, chaotic relocation of his family to his Chicago residence just to stay compliant with the court mandates, especially since they previously lived basically right next door to each other down in Texas. Before we dive deeper into this wild story, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Seriously, let that sink in for a minute. Beverley is the absolute bedrock of his family financially. He literally purchased those Texas homes, and suddenly he was legally banned from coming within 1,000 feet of his own sibling. Consequently, his mom and sister were forced to pack up and head to another piece of real estate he owns up in Chicago. Meanwhile, Pat stayed behind in Texas before ultimately fleeing the country entirely to go ball out. On an overseas contract, the 37-year-old guard held nothing back when describing the severe mental toll the arrest took on him, labeling the whole ordeal profoundly depressing, totally humiliating, and just downright overwhelming as he reflected on the shock of wearing handcuffs and sitting in police custody for the very first time. He kept it incredibly real about the heavy emotional baggage this situation dumped on his shoulders. Speaking directly to the camera, he shared, "I just felt the need to give you all a raw look at the harsh reality of my daily life lately. Honestly, it has been deeply depressing. It has been incredibly sad. It has been flat out embarrassing from day one on social media." Right on the heels of the arrest, Beverley desperately tried to take control of the spinning narrative. Taking to his accounts, the veteran guard pleaded with fans not to buy into every crazy rumor floating around the internet. He also shared an anonymous statement claiming that he had suddenly and unexpectedly discovered his underage sister hanging out completely alone with an 18-year-old adult male. Naturally, his protective instincts kicked into high gear, just like any good older brother would react, out of pure concern for her safety. The statement went on to say, "However, we firmly reject the media's twisted version of what happened next, and we are eagerly waiting for our day in court to set the record straight." His powerhouse lawyer, Leticia Quinones-Hollins, also wasted no time dropping a fierce press release right after he was booked. She declared, "Look, I fully acknowledge that the police report is packed with ugly accusations. That being said, please keep in mind that this document reflects a totally one-sided version of events, recorded when adrenaline and tempers were through the roof. Like I have stated previously, we strongly dispute the accuracy of that police affidavit, and it definitely does not tell the whole story. Let us be clear, Patrick is absolutely not a violent person, and he definitely did not resort to violence that evening. Truthfully, he showed the utmost respect to the responding officers on the scene and actively urged everyone else present to follow suit. His legal eagle did not stop there, adding, "He is the ultimate provider and the fierce protector of his entire family, especially his younger sister and his mother. He has dedicated his life to guarding their well-being, and nothing is going to change that. I am absolutely confident that once the real facts finally see the light of day, Patrick is going to be completely exonerated. Until that moment arrives, I am just asking the public to keep an open mind and avoid jumping to any wild conclusions. Do not forget how the American justice system actually works in this country. Patrick remains completely innocent until proven guilty inside a courtroom." Hey guys, if you are enjoying this breakdown, do not forget to hit subscribe. Meanwhile, over on his personal vlog, Beverley dropped raw footage of himself navigating the chaotic days. Immediately following the whole arrest debacle, the 37-year-old veteran gave fans a behind-the-scenes look at his life directly after getting out of lockup. The second he posted that $40,000 bond and walked out the jailhouse doors, he saw the toxic rumors spreading like wildfire online. "I am incredibly frustrated right now." Beverley vented in a clip dated November 18th. "The insane lies people are pushing on the internet are just mind-blowing. Saying I punched my own sister, that I choked her. I honestly cannot wait for the actual truth to drop." He mentioned his master plan was to keep his mouth shut and simply let the legal gears turn on their own. Instead of dropping an immediate public defense, Beverley stitched together a bunch of raw vlog moments from the stressful days following his release, including a crazy audio clip of a phone call detailing his mandatory drug testing schedule, alongside another powerful scene where he breaks down exactly why he went ghost on social media regarding the case. He was stuck jumping through ridiculous hoops like random drug screens and navigating a bunch of other strict legal conditions tied to his bail. And remember, he was dealing with all this noise while trying to focus on his job as a pro hoops star getting paid to hoop overseas. But then the case finally landed in front of a grand jury, and boom, this is exactly where the momentum completely flipped in his favor. Beverley's terrifying felony charge for alleged assault on a family member by impeding breath was officially tossed into the trash on February 23rd, when the grand jury over at the 240th District Court in Fort Bend County took one look at the case and decided there simply was not enough solid evidence of a third-degree felony to even drag this thing to trial, officially issuing a no bill. Now, if you are not a legal expert and have no clue what a no bill actually means, it basically just means the jury looked at the facts and called foul, declaring there was zero proof to legally move forward with the prosecution. What is up, sports fans? Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button. Today, the massive legal drama surrounding one of basketball's most notorious agitators has officially hit a brick wall, as a grand jury ruling citing a lack of solid proof completely blocked whole situation from moving forward. It is completely over, no court battles, zero chance of a guilty verdict, just a shut book. In response, his heavy-hitting legal squad, spearheaded by Rusty, Harden and Leticia Quinones-Hollins, put out a massive press release following that crucial courtroom update a few months back. They passionately declared that once every single piece of evidence was placed on the table and the legal panel could analyze the raw truth of the situation, the veteran point guard would be totally cleared of every single allegation. And that is exactly how it played out down in Fort Bend County when the panel officially threw out the indictment, putting an absolute stop to the investigation. The defender made it a massive priority to publicly declare his fierce loyalty to his sibling, swearing he would never lay a finger on her and expressing extreme gratitude that the court acknowledged his innocence by issuing a no bill. He also sent a heartfelt shout out to everyone who kept him in their prayers and held him down through this incredibly dark chapter. He noted his immense relief that the justice system actually functioned correctly, crossing his fingers that dodging these severe accusations will finally allow him to repair his damaged public image, taking his initial victory lap straight to his digital platforms right after the ruling dropped. He showed love to his loyal followers and emphasized how society absolutely needs to safeguard its youth, specifically young women everywhere. He claimed this brutal gauntlet actually forged an unbreakable bond within his household. But hey, before we break down the crazy legal mechanics here, make sure to smash that like button. Now, let us get one thing straight about how these court panels operate. Their job is not to declare pure innocence. They just figure out if there is enough smoke to actually justify a full-blown prosecution. They operate on the much lower benchmark of probable cause rather than the ironclad certainty needed to actually lock someone up. Therefore, watching this legal body declare that the state could not even scrounge up enough proof to step foot inside a courtroom is a ridiculously huge win. It essentially proves that after heavily scrutinizing the official cop documents, the forensic details, the sworn statements, and whatever bombshells the defense dropped on the table, the jurors found the entire accusation completely flimsy and unconvincing. In a raw, unfiltered video, the basketball star tackled the vicious internet rumors head-on, admitting, "I completely grasped why. The public is running with a storyline built entirely around those initial arrest documents. It makes sense. If I were on the outside, I would be judging it the exact same way, but that is nowhere near reality. Every single household deals with chaotic internal drama. And let me tell you, that specific comment about domestic friction instantly became the most heavily debated snippet of his entire statement, violently dividing the internet community right down the middle. One side praised his authentic, raw take on toxic household dynamics, while the other side ripped into him, claiming he was totally brushing off the severe violence his sibling was accusing him of. But optics aside, the bottom line is that he is legally untouchable. The Lone Star State's justice system has officially refused to press charges against the veteran pro-hoop star, slamming the door on that explosive arrest from the previous calendar year involving the supposed physical altercation with his sister. That is an absolute fact, confirmed and published by major outlets like the Washington Post. So regardless of whether the court of public opinion buys his side of the story, the actual legal authorities have spoken loudly on the subject. He is permanently dodging the witness stand. There is zero threat of him sitting in a jail cell for this incident, and the whole chapter is history. Diving deeper into that personal broadcast, he passionately defended himself regarding his sibling, telling the camera, "Harming my own flesh and blood is unthinkable. I am eagerly counting down the days until my name is totally cleared." He strategically filmed that segment way before the court threw the case out, keeping it in the final cut to prove to his audience that his story never wavered for a second. By the way, if you love these deep sports dives, drop a sub to the channel right now, because understanding the sheer magnitude of this backlash requires taking a hard look at the gritty history of this polarizing point guard and exactly why the basketball community so eagerly painted him as the villain. Truth be told, this guy never exactly banked a ton of positive PR, carrying a massive chip on his shoulder from his rough upbringing on the west side of Chicago all the way to his collegiate run with the Arkansas Razorbacks. He was definitely no blue chip prodigy. In fact, his professional draft value completely tanked due to some major scholastic rule breaking during his third year on campus. The man got caught up in an academic cheating scandal that effectively stripped him of his amateur athletic status for good. Rather than hearing his name called on draft night and immediately securing the bag, he was forced into a grueling 5-year international grind to kick off his professional journey, lacing up his sneakers in tough leagues across Ukraine, Greece, and Russia. But do not get it twisted. He absolutely dominated the European circuit, snatching the Ukrainian dunk contest trophy, hoisting the Russian Cup back in 2011, and even locking down the 2012 Euro Cup Most Valuable Player award, which is a seriously heavy resume builder. The major leagues finally gave him his shot on January 7th, 2013, handing him a multi-year deal worth just shy of $2 million to lace up for Houston, though he was instantly sent down to grind it out with their developmental affiliate, the Rio Grande Valley Vipers. After just 7 days tearing up the minor leagues, he made his grand entrance onto the big stage on January 15th, 2013. But literally within a blink of an eye, absolute chaos erupted. Russell Westbrook suffered a devastating campaign-ending knee trauma during the first round of the 2013 postseason when the rookie recklessly crashed into his legs while aggressively swiping for the basketball. The superstar guard was absolutely livid, sparking a blood feud that permanently stamped his reputation as public enemy number one for countless spectators. We are talking about one of the most freakishly athletic guards the sport has ever witnessed getting his meniscus ripped to shreds, all because of a completely unnecessary dive after the whistle had already blown for a break in the action. Oklahoma City had racked up 60 victories that season, but without their floor general, their title dreams were violently crushed, and incredibly, the controversial defender kept doubling down on the antics. During their highly anticipated rematch in March 2014, he intentionally smacked the rock away from his rival, right as another timeout was being signaled, resulting in a screaming match and an immediate technical foul. Hit that like button and subscribe for more Daily Hoops drama. Have you ever watched a player completely cross the line from a minor annoyance to an absolute liability? Because that exact scenario is what transformed Pat Bev from a simple court pest into a genuinely reckless wildcard. But before we dive deep into this madness, hit that subscribe button to keep up with the craziest stories in basketball. Throughout his wild ride of a career, he bounced around the league like a pinball. After spending 4.5 gritty seasons grinding it out in Houston, the Rockets shipped him off to the Los Angeles Clippers back in 2017 as a key piece of the blockbuster Chris Paul swap. He would go on to anchor that Clippers roster for 4 dramatic campaigns, a stint that peaked with an unforgettable push to the very first conference finals run in the history of the franchise. Yet, true to form, his explosive temper cost him dearly when he shoved Chris Paul in the back right in the middle of that highly contested series. Specifically, on July 3rd, 2021, the league slapped him with a 1-game ban for that infamous cheap shot on CP3 during Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals showdown against the Phoenix Suns. From there, he packed his bags for Minnesota, establishing a cult hero status during a brief, passionate stint with the Timberwolves before getting flipped to Utah as part of the massive Rudy Gobert blockbuster. But he barely unpacked before being rerouted to Hollywood. On August 25th, the Lakers brought him on board, sending Stanley Johnson and Talon Horton-Tucker the other way to seal the deal. Unsurprisingly, the Lakers' experiment faded quickly, and they swiftly exiled him to Orlando. The Journeyman Tour was officially in full swing, stopping next in Chicago, then Philly, and finally Milwaukee. If you're keeping score at home, that roster includes the Minnesota Timberwolves, Los Angeles Lakers, Chicago Bulls, Philadelphia 76ers, and the Milwaukee Bucks. A staggering 7 different professional franchises. That is a whole lot of real estate for one career, right? And honestly, his final curtain call in the league was a terrible look. He notoriously hurled a basketball right at the head of a female Indiana fan, grabbed the ball back, and launched it straight at a male spectator. This total meltdown unfolded live during the Milwaukee Bucks' devastating playoff elimination against the Pacers. By May, league officials dropped the hammer, officially suspending him for 4 games without pay for his repeated, dangerous throws into the stands. Not to mention a completely out-of-line confrontation with a female journalist during the post-game press conference. All of these chaotic blunders took place right as the Bucks were getting bounced by Indiana in the opening round. The press conference drama was especially bizarre. He literally shut down a working media member, refusing to answer a single question simply because she wasn't subscribed to his personal podcast. By the way, are you subscribed to our channel yet? Drop a like and hit subscribe so you never miss these wild sports breakdowns. Anyway, long before any handcuffs were involved, this guy had permanently cemented his legacy as a loose cannon who constantly trampled over the boundaries, whether playing defense, handling the press, or dealing with the crowd. The resulting felony accusation felt like just another dark chapter in the seemingly endless saga of Patrick. Beverley's deeply alarming off-court decisions. You absolutely need to keep this history in mind to truly grasp the massive public outrage following his arrest. If this really is the end of his American hoop dreams, he leaves the association having laced up for 666 regular season matchups. Across those battles, he posted averages of 8.3 points, 4.1 boards, 3.4 dimes, and 1.1 steals per night in 26.6 minutes of action. Make no mistake, he earned 3 all-defensive team selections through sheer, relentless hustle and grit. That resume demands respect. We are talking about an elite defender who heavily impacted winning cultures for more than 10 years. Yet, the shadows hanging over his legacy make it impossible to celebrate without a huge asterisk. Which brings us to today. Where exactly is the former defensive menace? Hiding out right now? Believe it or not, he is lacing up his sneakers overseas for PAOK Thessaloniki, battling it out in both the Greek Domestic League and the FIBA Europe Cup. The seasoned veteran inked a contract to finish out the campaign on December 15th, 2025, securing a bag reportedly valued at around $600,000. Following a sudden departure from Hapoel Tel Aviv, he swapped Israel for the Mediterranean shores of Greece. But is he dominating the European hardwood? Honestly, his debut performances have been a massive roller coaster. He flashed his old magic with 14 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 assists against powerhouse Panathinaikos on January 18th, 2026. However, he completely ghosted just days later, throwing up a goose egg against Panionios. At this point, the gritty guard looks incredibly out of sync with his new squad in Thessaloniki, falling way short of justifying that lucrative $600,000 paycheck. It is painfully obvious that his spotty production on the men floor is heavily weighed down by the massive legal storm brewing back home. But with the legal system finally dropping those heavy allegations, he is desperate to flip the page. Word from his camp is that Pat Bev feels completely vindicated, breathing a sigh of relief that his side of the story prevailed, leaving him free to just hoop. That is the ultimate endgame right now. Lace him up, finish out his playing days on his own terms, and somehow salvage what is left of his battered public image. Still, the court of public opinion is wildly divided on the leaked footage. A vocal faction of fans is fiercely defending the veteran guard. They heavily emphasize the fact that the grand jury formally cleared him with a no bill. They are quick to highlight how his sibling actually attempted to walk back her accusations while officers were still on site. Furthermore, they note that the guy who dialed 911 was an 18-year-old adult hanging out with a 15-year-old minor at 3 o'clock in the morning. From their perspective, the former superstar was stepping up as a fiercely protective older brother, only to get trapped in a chaotic misunderstanding that exploded wildly out of control. On the flip side, plenty of skeptics aren't buying that narrative for a second. They are pointing straight at the grim physical evidence logged by law enforcement, specifically the undeniable red marks wrapped around her throat and the burst blood vessels in her eyes. These critics refuse to ignore the terrifying, detailed, sworn statements alleging vicious strangulation and closed fist strikes. To them, dodging an indictment does not magically erase the incident. It simply means prosecutors lacked the ironclad proof required to push for a conviction in trial. There is a massive difference between being found innocent and beating a charge, which brings us to the very heart of this drama. Here we have a guy who forged a multi-million-dollar brand by being the absolute most aggressive dog on the hardwood, constantly rattling cages, and brazenly crossing every single line he could find. And now, that exact same intense, hypercritical spotlight is burning a hole straight into his private affairs. Is it fair to judge a man's personal life by his controversial on-court persona? Drop a comment below and let us know your take. But love him or hate him, here are the cold hard facts. A grand jury out in Fort Bend County, Texas, officially declined to indict the polarizing former defensive specialist. The case stemmed from his arrest last autumn on severe felony assault allegations tied to what authorities labeled a terrifying instance of domestic violence. While the legal battle is over, the debate is just beginning. Make sure you crush that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more deep dives into the sports world's wildest controversies. Cleared of all charges, the defensive menace is officially off the hook. Now hooping professionally over in Greece, the veteran guard just dropped a bombshell video explaining his version of the chaos. leaving the entire basketball world completely divided. Before we dive into the madness, smash that subscribe button. Look, Pat Bev's journey has always lived on the absolute edge. Raised in the gritty neighborhoods of West Chicago, he tragically lost his father figure to senseless street violence. His mother tirelessly juggled endless shifts just to protect him from the block. That struggle fueled him through 5 grueling years, dominating foreign leagues, fighting tooth and nail for a single chance at the association. Against all odds, he broke through, carving out a legendary 12-year run fueled by pure hustle and lockdown defense. Tossed around in 7 trades over 3 wild seasons, launching balls into the stands, facing brutal suspensions, heading back to Europe, ending up in handcuffs, and finally walking away innocent. It is undeniable that every single phase of this man's journey is anchored by absolute chaos. He thrived on friction under the bright lights of the hardwood. He weaponized hostility whenever he stepped up to a press conference microphone. And shockingly, that exact same turbulent energy just exploded into his private affairs for the whole world to witness. During his latest upload, he dropped a quote that instantly went viral. Quote, "Everyone has family drama," unquote. Honestly, that might just be the most authentic confession he made throughout the entire 14-minute clip. Domestic disputes are incredibly tricky. They turn ugly fast, often dragging down the exact individuals you care about most into devastating scenarios. However, when your face is plastered on billboards, your darkest moments never remain behind closed doors. They mutate into viral feeds, front page gossip, and deep dive commentary channels. Which brings us right back to the reality we find ourselves in today. The notorious agitator broke his silence. He laid his cards on the table, and the courts officially backed off. At this point, the ball is entirely in the court of every viewer tuning in. It is your job to piece together the truth about what went down inside that Fort Bend County estate down in Texas at 3:50 in the morning on November 14th, 2025. Yet, one undeniable fact remains about this relentless competitor. The battle never truly ends, whether he is locked down on defense, chilling off the clock, facing a judge, or battling the digital masses online. Hey, if you are hooked on this breakdown, hit that thumbs up and tap subscribe to join the squad. Drop your hottest take down below. Are you buying what this controversial star is selling? Or does the official police documentation paint a completely different picture? Keep your notifications on and catch us in the next episode.